everyone, Brienne here from Hooked on Homemade Happiness. Welcome back to my channel. Today in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to crochet the Tunisian Diagonal Lattice Stitch. This stitch is an intermediate, maybe even an advanced Tunisian stitch. So if you are a beginner Tunisian crocheter, I have a video linked below, and then I have a few other stitch tutorials in this playlist that are more beginner friendly, and then you can come on back and try the diagonal lattice stitch. For this stitch, I am using a J6mm corded Tunisian crochet hook and worsted weight yarn. So to get started with the stitch, I'm going to get my yarn on my hook, and your starting chain needs to be an odd number. So I'm going to chain 11 for this tutorial. And there is my starting chain of 11. And for my forward pass for the foundation row, I'm just going to do a regular Tunisian foundation row. So I'm going to start in the second chain from my hook in this back bump here, where I will insert my hook and yarn over and pull up a loop. I'm going to do that all the way across my chain for my first forward pass. And here's my last chain. And you should have the same number of stitches on your hook as chains that you started with. And now I'm going to do my return pass, where I will chain 1 and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops on the hook until only 1 loop remains. And here is row 1, my foundation row. So now to do this diagonal lattice stitch, I'm going to be doing some simple decrease stitches and simple stitches across my row. So I'm going to start with a decrease, and what that means, I'm going to insert my hook into both of these next 2 loops. So here's the second loop and the third. So I'm getting both of those loops on my hook. And then I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop. So that is a Tunisian decrease, Tunisian simple stitch decrease. Now I'm going to do a simple stitch in this first stitch here. So now, so you can see in the decrease, I kind of have 2 legs of my simple stitch on the left and the right. So we're going to insert our hook into this first leg again of the simple stitch. I'm going to insert my hook back into that same stitch and then yarn over and pull up a loop. So now you can kind of see how it creates that X right here. So I'm going to do that again over the next 2 stitches. So I'm going to insert my hook into the next 2 stitches and then yarn over and pull up a loop through both of those. And then here again, we have 1, 2 legs from that decrease. And I'm going to insert my hook into this first leg here and make a simple stitch. So here are my next 2 stitches. I'm going to insert my hook into both of the next 2 stitches and then yarn over and pull up a loop. And again, you can see where I have that kind of the 2 legs of my decrease. And I'm going to insert my hook into that first leg of my decrease and yarn over and pull up a loop there. Okay. And again over the next 2. Insert my hook into both of those stitches and yarn over and pull up a loop. And then insert your hook back, do a simple stitch back into this first stitch from my decrease. And then here in the last stitch, I'm going to do a simple stitch. So I have one stitch before my edge. So in this last stitch here before my edge, I'm going to do just a regular simple stitch. And then we'll make our edge stitch by inserting our hook into both of those loops along the side of our work and yarn over and pull up a loop. Now I'm going to do my return pass. So I will chain 1 and then yarn over and pull through 2 all the way across my row until only one loop remains on my hook. Now we're going to repeat that row for row 3, but we're going to now start with the regular Tunisian simple stitch and then do those decreases. So here in the next stitch, I'm going to just do a regular simple stitch. So I'm going to insert my hook into that next stitch and yarn over and pull up a loop. Now I'm going to do that decrease. I'm going to grab the second stitch from this decrease and the first stitch from the next. So you're going to be staggering these decreases. So I'm going to insert my hook into both of those loops and yarn over and pull up a loop. Now I'm going to go back to the first stitch from that decrease and insert my hook into this first stitch here and do a simple stitch. Make sure those loops don't get tangled up. There we go. And again, I'm going to now do another decrease over the next 2 stitches. So I'm going to do the second stitch from this decrease and the first stitch from the next decrease. So we're just alternating those. So I'm going to insert my hook into both of those stitches, yarn over, pull up a loop. Now I'm going to go back and simple stitch in the first stitch from my decrease. Again, simple stitch, decrease, insert your hook into the next 2, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then simple stitch in that first stitch from my decrease. And then here's my last 2 stitches before my edge. So I'm going to do that decrease along the last 2 stitches. And then now simple stitch in that first stitch from that decrease. So there I've worked all the way across my row, and I need to do my edge stitch where we'll insert a hook on both of those side loops and yarn over and pull up a loop. And now we will do the return pass. So chain 1, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, repeating that across the row until just 1 loop remains. And there you have the Tunisian Diagonal Lattice Stitch repeat. So you just repeat those 2 rows, alternating, starting with the regular simple stitch and then or ending with the Tunisian simple stitch. So staggering those decreases throughout. So we'll repeat those 2 rows one more time. So since I started with the Tunisian simple stitch in my last row, I'm going to now start with the decrease. So I'm going to insert my hook into both of those first 2 stitches right there and make my decrease. And then do a simple stitch in the first stitch of that decrease. And I'm going to do that all the way across my row until just 1 stitch remains. So do my decrease. And then insert your hook into the first stitch of that decrease. Decrease, and then make a simple stitch in the first stitch of the decrease. And decrease, and then again, simple stitch in that first stitch of the decrease. So now I have one stitch remaining besides my edge stitch, where I'm going to do a simple stitch and then my edge stitch and then return pass. And then now, since in the last row we started with a decrease, we're going to start with the simple stitch in this next row. So in this first stitch here, I'm just going to do a regular Tunisian simple stitch. And then now I'm going to do that decrease in the next. So grab the next 2 stitches, my decrease, and then a simple stitch in the first stitch of that decrease. I'm going to repeat that all the way across my row. My next decrease, and then simple stitch in that first stitch of the decrease. There we go. And then here's my final decrease of my row. And then I need to do that simple stitch in that first stitch of my decrease. And then I'll make my edge stitch. And then now return pass. Chain 1, then yarn over, pull through 2 all the way across the row. Stitch keeps curling on me. There we go. So now you can, after doing that a couple times, you could see this diagonal kind of ribbing look start to form to create that diagonal lattice. So go ahead and repeat those 2 rows, alternating, starting and ending with the Tunisian simple stitch and then doing the decreases for the rest of the row. So go ahead, alternate those 2 rows until your project is the length that you're looking for, and then come on back and we will bind off our project. So here I have repeated that row a couple more times so you can further see kind of how this diagonal lattice looks when it's worked up. So now we're going to bind off our project, and we're just going to use a regular Tunisian bind off for this. So I'm just going to do slip stitches across the top. I'm going to insert my hook into the next stitch, pull up a loop, pull that loop through that vertical bar and through the loop on my hook to make a slip stitch across the top to close up all of these stitches. I'm going to repeat that all the way across. Oops, not a decrease. There we go. Here's my final stitch. Oh no, one more. Now that's my final stitch. And then my edge stitch I'm going to do just like I have been doing. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut my yarn and pull that through. Here you have the diagonal lattice stitch. You can see this one will require a little bit of blocking. It does curl slightly, but it just gives such a pretty diagonal texture. I think it'd be great for a bag or a pillow. I love using Tunisian for home decor projects because it creates such a nice solid piece of fabric. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this stitch tutorial, and I will see you next time.